he's back. We found him at the bottom of a. No, we didn't. He's been around and about, and he's outrageous still, and more outrageous. The older he gets more outrageous.
Well, imagine when he gets to 50.
Yeah, and he lives in another planet. So listen, what you've been doing with yourself?
Just been busy. It's if I hold my hands up now, I've no idea, really. We've been trying to sell houses. We've been trying to consolidate businesses. We've been doing some work with Netflix, some work with a film company called Goodwill Media, and things just got out of hand. I wanted a break. I wanted a rest. I was fed up. I've worked all my life. I've never really had a break. I've never really had a holiday, because being a travel writer, every time I went on holiday, I had to write about it. And so I just thought I'd have a break, and then everything went insane, and I've not had a break. So I'm looking for a bit. So I thought I'll come back and talk to you.
Well, there you go. Listen, we've got to go in at the deep end. And I recall having a real good go at the Wicked Witch of the North, the lovely Nicola. And nobody believed us, Lee, how bad she was, but they do now. And there's a lot more to come out, isn't there?
Yeah, well, she didn't take a lot of sussing. There was something fishy about her, I'm sorry to say. And we were right. Long time ago, but we were right.
Who's the more guilty? Who's the more guilty, her hubby or her? Or are they in it together? Because one of them's telling porcupines.
You can't really say, can you? It's a court case hanging over them. There is an implication that somebody's committed a criminal act, which is probably, usually when it reaches those stages, there's a lot of evidence in that direction, and a lot of back talk and things like that. And she claims she doesn't know, quite rightly. Why would you admit it? Why would you say, "Oh, I knew about that"? No, you would. So the jury's out, literally. But that really is something that actually moves on to a same subject, but a little bit different. The criminal actions, or the criminal implications, or the rumours about so many of our politicians, or worldwide politicians, is shameful. Politics has always been a shady business. I've been involved in politics all my life as a watcher. And I'm fairly apolitical, really. But to see the kind of things that are now being said by our politicians and about our politicians, and then to hear so many of the public defend them, say, well, it's their own private lives. What's it got to do with it? It isn't. They aren't private individuals. Their private lives affect your life and my life. And if they have criminal backgrounds or stuff going on, then they need quizzing. And I'm so pleased they've actually taken the gun. They've taken Donald Trump's gun. Gun on him!
No. We'll come on to that subject, no doubt, sooner or later. But I tell you what, it can only get worse. Why going to Wales, which is another principality? Well, no, it's a principality anyway. But it's the same thing. They've devolved. And they devolved to madness because they love the power. Nicola and co, SNP and co, all they want is independence. They couldn't care less about NHS Scotland, NHS Wales, the drug problem in Scotland. They couldn't give two monkeys. All they want is the power and devolution in Scotland's case. At least Wales are not completely unsensible. They're not going for the devolution card, but they want their own way with everything. I mean, the previous incumbent, Mark, putting 20 miles an hour almost over the whole road network. It was, I tell you what, as you know, we live there, but not often. But the nonsense that caused was incredible. The traffic jams, the danger. And now we've got dear old Vaughan Gethin, who proudly says, I'm the first black leader in the world. Well, not quite, at least in Europe. Yes, but he's another one that you've got to say, are our politicians now snowflakes? Because all you've got to do is cry. And he's crying because he's got £200,000 off a criminal. So he cries. I wouldn't cry.
I think, yeah, the general. You see, I still like Boris Johnson. I don't particularly like his politics, but I like him. I think he's very funny. And I think he's also incredibly intelligent and very incisive and very decisive. Yeah, you can hear everybody having go, Boris Johnson's decisive. Of course he's decisive. But he actually openly takes advice and then doesn't necessarily claim it all for himself because it might go wrong. So he wouldn't take the all on himself. But the background that the man has does not show an integral honesty. It shows the absolute opposite. It shows a moral dishonesty. And if you look at the politicians we've got now, take Titchy Sunak. Yeah, what he said, this thing about the tax and everything. Well, the man, he's got it wrong. But again, he's come on sort of not quite weeping, but being very, 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 whatever the word is, I can't find, about that. Then what he's done as well, what man with any intelligence goes to the 80th anniversary of one of the biggest war event ever, and then says, oh, better fly home, I've got to do an interview. And it turns up. And the problem is, look, my desk I'm sitting at is that high. There, comes to there on me. And all you can see is little Richie Sunak looking over the top like that, going like that. And then you've got Keir Starmer. I always thought Keir Starmer was 6'3". He isn't. He's 4'2". And not only is he morally bankrupt, this is the man who says, I was born to a poor toolmaker. Yes, he was a toolmaker, but he wasn't very poor. He's like Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, I was born in the backstay. I was born in a little cottage in the country. No, you weren't, Jeremy. It's down the road from my house here. It's absolutely gigantic. And that is the... I'm giving you, sorry, I was just having a rant.
Yeah, have a rest. Get the blood pressure down. Listen, you're right. And look, Rishi's got to talk to the advisor that told him to come back and do this interview, which incidentally is not even going to go out till next week. That advisor should be sacked on the spot. But no, he won't be because he's some sort of civil servant.
Well, it's the whole attitude. And it's this simple. See, what I've studied this, and I know I'm right, but I can't prove it because I'm not I'm not somebody who can impersonate people. But if you look back, when Tony Blair took over as Prime Minister, and in the build-up to it, he brought forward a very, very middle-class way of presenting and a very middle-class lisping kind of voice. And you drop your T's and everything else. So you say, instead of saying, I don't want to do that, you say, I don't want to do that. And then, but it's posh. It's middle class. It's wine bar talk. It's the people who shop at Sainsbury's and Waitrose and places like that. And then all of a sudden that telegraphed itself into all the following, apart from Boris, who had his own way of presenting. Then listen to Richie Sunak, another lisping idiot, a multi-millionaire lisping idiot who pretends he's a man of the people. Then you've got Keir Starmer, another lisping idiot. What is it that they think they get away with lisping? If I wanted to lisp, I wouldn't be on television. I wouldn't be on the radio if I spoke like this. Have you heard that, idiot? Well, they think it makes them politicians. Lisping does not make you a politician. What makes you a politician is being honest.
Well, it's integrity, isn't it? That old-fashioned word, and resilience and honesty. And truth. What's that? That used to be something that was aimed at, not any longer. Well, they aim at it to shoot it down, don't they? Having
Yeah.
said that, the other thing, and you can tell a lot from speech, actually,
Yeah.
the affected speech of the woke. And now, if you listen to the wokes, they're all
You
the same.
speak in your sleep then.
Yes, woke up. And what happens at the end of the sentence, for some reason, somebody sticks a drawing pin in their nether regions and they put an intonation, oh, on the
Right.
last sentence or
Yeah.
part sentence or even part syllable.
Yeah.
That is woke. It drives me round the bend.
Well, it is the same thing, and I'm sure I'm going to end up in trouble with this. I'm always telling one of my daughters off for talking like she's posh. I said, "You're not posh. You come from the village of the damned. You're not posh, duck." But everybody talks very posh. You say goes back to Tara Para Tompkinson or whatever she was called, and it's that IT girl attitude which now pervades every. So you go in Waitrose, they'll say, "What do you want, duck?" They go, "Oh, and how may I help you today?" And things like, "Well, you don't, Tara. Call me duck. You live in a council house like I do." I don't live in a council house. But in this case, I do. And, it's just an attitude. And it's a false attitude. Our life has become totally false. And that's because of YouTube, because of videos, because of everything that isolated us from reality. And
Well,
politicians.
that's a good point, actually, because I reckon the Scottish disease and the Welsh disease can be summed up that it's a mixture of Trumpton and Dad's army for their own benefit. And it's not real. Some of the things they do is awful. Let me say contentiously, a big donation's been given to LGBT Scotland as a charity. £1 million. Well, with great respect, there are lots more deserving charities than LGBT, dare I mention. But this is
Do they
the
pay those?
crazy thing they get up to. They've got power and they're using it, and they've got too much power. Thank you, Tony Blair. And it's causing divisions everywhere.
It is. So, the fact they give £1 million, which really is just a drop in the ocean, might be a lot to me and you, but it's a drop in the ocean in the sort of finances we're talking about. They want to give it to LGBT, fine. Give it to. I'm sure they give money to other places as well. And where do you draw the line? I don't actually give to charity at all because I don't see. It's like watching the. I once added it up. All the adverts. Support a donkey. Support a zebra. In support a polar bear. And I worked it. I just added up what I'd have to pay those adverts every night. If I supported all the charities that came on telly and asked me for money, I'd be paying out something like £100 a day, and so I'd be bankrupt within a couple of months. But the charities would be all right. And so, it's like, it just is that attitude. I'm not against charity, and there are certain ones, like at the moment, we're supporting Macmillan nurses in Britain. And that kind of thing we will do. But this whole attitude that the money we have, public money, should go to charity isn't the best thing. It should go to people who deserve it, who put it there in the first place. Charities are quite capable of making their own money, and whether we should be supporting them through our councils, through our governments, is a different matter. Yeah, it's a funny thing.
I will tell you a little story. When I was knee high to a grasshopper, one of my first interviews was with a charity, and it's still going. It was I won't name the charity, but it was to help old people out. And I was shocked in my naive days because I thought, oh, I'll put a bit back into this world. You even think that at age 18 and 17, I'll go into the charity bit. And I was shocked about how, not exactly uncaring, but how commercial it was. And I thought, oh, do you have to be talking this way as a charity? Do you have to be going out there and money, money, money? Because that's the main thing before the actual cause gets anything. And well, I'll tell you what I've been struck by this week, and it is a charity. And it's a very old advert, but it's been put on again. we see quite rightly talking about people crying in the right places. That's no bad thing. It ain't Snowflake, and we're thinking of D-Day, of course. And then in the middle of the D-Day celebration comes this advert for Donkey Sanctuary. Now, listen, I love animals. And in fact, we've done a lot of filming with the Donkey Sanctuary and the Isle of Wight because they invite pop groups over. Don't know why, but they do. And we did. So I like donkeys. They're nice. But I mean, this advert, if you can cast your mind back, well, no, it's on again now. And it starts with everything in slow-mo.
Yeah.
Folks, that makes it unreal. That makes it, dare I say, a con, perhaps. Donkeys don't walk slowly like that, or puppy dogs when you have a puppy dog advert and they come out and, well, you know the scene. And the narration starts. What a state, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, what a state these donkeys are, but it's their heart that is broken. And you give to their heart. Oh, for goodness sake. I'm sorry, Lee, that just turns me off. Something rotten.
I think animals can have broken hearts. But I really do. I know my dog was really upset when I used to go to work, and he'd sit there and he'd not move, he'd just wait, and then he'd wait for me to cut, and then he was happy again. And also when his cat died, my dog had a cat. And when his cat died, he was mortified. But it didn't take him long to get over it, particularly when I got him another cat, the same colour. Didn't matter anymore. He got another cat, smelled a bit different. But it was just, yeah. But donkey charities, donkeys are useful beasts, aren't they? They're not very intelligent. Some people say donkeys are intelligent. I'm not sure if they are. But yeah, it's just a strange thing. Now, if you think, we're talking before about that nice steer Karma, and because he's not very rich, he's not very well off, actually bought a little donkey sanctuary for his mummy, because his mummy wasn't very well, and he bought the field at the back of the house and filled it with donkeys, so mummy could sit there and watch donkeys. That was very nice of him, wasn't it?
All heart. Well, I'm going to touch on a subject now that is dear to your heart, and that is beer. Now, apparently, I'm going to educate him. I never thought I'd say that about him. I thought I've always held him up there as an expert in the fine arts of alcohol, beer alcohol. But there's a company that's selling a fortune of lager in the United Kingdom called Mardi Excepcional. And it's a Spanish brew. And apparently, Molson Coors, massive brewery, bought about 8 years ago a Spanish, with quite a reputation, small brewery.
Yeah.
And pinched the recipe. And they now...
Might they have bought it, might they not have pinched it?
Well, yes, I mean, pinched inverted commas. And brought it back to UK. You know, the world comes to UK to do brewing. All the big people come and open up in UK. Don't ask me why. It's probably you're drinking it all. But apart from that, Australia, who are complaining like mad. Now they're big, and they have some good beers, apparently. You can tell me about that. And he's shaking his head. He's not a lager man of this weak continental. Well, a lot of people have gone to San Miguel and people like that, and they've opened up in Britain. And of course, they do non-alcoholic. Now, wash your mouth out now. Non-alcoholic beers. Have you ever tried one, by the way?
I've had loads. I don't really drink anymore. I used to drink copious amounts of beer. I love beer. I can't do it anymore. Since I stopped drinking, and now I've returned to having the odd glass of wine, very much like you. I just don't really drink. But if I go out for, like, we've been in Manchester, and I was desperate to imbibe in Joseph Holt's, the best beer ever invented by man or God. And I went in, I had 2 pints, got indigestion, and had to go home. So it's not really a great thing, but I do love beer. I think beer is a beautiful, beautiful product. What I don't like is lager. And when we lived out in Slovakia for many years, Slovakia is classed as the beer capital of the world. I think they should really be taken to task and taken to the trade descriptions people over that. It's not beer. You don't brew beer, you brew lager, and lager is for girls.
Well, yes. I don't know. I don't like the stuff. I like the nice bit of wine, but that's it. Acquired taste. You've got to acquire a taste for it. A lot of people say red wine is very good for you. A lot of people are going to Pinot Noir because, yeah, it's more expensive, about 50% more. One of the reasons, strangely, we found out is that if you've got osteoporosis as an older, mainly ladies, but a lot of men have as well, it's actually going to help you in various medical ways. There again, and it does taste rather nice. So bear that in mind. Spend another 50% because so much red wine and white wine come to England, to the Bristol area, and they come over in shed loads or shiploads. And literally, they just bottle it there and then. And things happen on the way over, apart from the sea being rough. It's not good for the wine. They have to put, tons of sulfite, allegedly, in it to preserve it. Because, and that does you no good if you're drinking a lot of that stuff. So pay a little bit extra. Don't go to your cheap plonk in the supermarket because it's worth it. It'll taste nicer. And you don't need to drink as much of it anyway because it's a bit stronger, the decent stuff.
The thing is, with there isn't anything really that could be classed as cheap wine in Britain anymore. You know, I remember the days where you get 3 bottles of red wine for a tenner, and it was all right. It was all right. You get a good bottle of wine for £3.99. Now, really, to get anything that, I tell you what, honestly, to get a £3.99 bottle of wine now, you'll have to pay a tenner, £7.99. It's just ridiculous. My problem again with alcohol is that I used to love red wine. I could drink it by the vat load. And now I don't really like it. I don't really like red wine anymore. I don't like white wine. I don't like whiskey. I don't like brandy. I don't see the point in it. It hurts. It's like when you think, I'd rather have a nice cup of tea and sit down.
Oh my goodness me! Yes, definition of past it. No, I'm sure he's not. Listen, we've got to move on. Americans, they're getting fat. 80% of them allegedly are obese. By what definition, we don't know, but they're obese. 50% of diabetics or pre-diabetics have been warned, together with the fatties, about obviously risk from being overweight. And one of the things is they don't half drink a load of fruit juices, natural fruit juices. They can do a lot of damage with you if you drink the wrong ones, actually. And Coca-Cola. Now, America's not the cleanest place to be for very many reasons in business. And Coca-Cola are big and mighty and powerful.
Yeah.
And they've been found out on the quiet of paying off to charities that are supposedly protecting diabetics a lot of money to keep the mouth shut.
Right. Well,
drink
straw up the nose. Is that how you drink it now then?
Well, I don't know, or intravenously, you tell me. But they, and it goes on and has done for many decades, they are paying these people off who are fighting for our health, charities in this case. Keep your mouth shut. We'll contribute to your charity if you do. That is total corruption.
Well, it's total corruption. If it's true about Coca-Cola, is that just a commercial? Is that a commercial decision that makes sense? Surely the actual corrupt parties are the charities or the organisations which are accepting the money and
Exactly.
debasing. Yeah, you say they're debasing their values. Coca-Cola are perpetuating theirs, which is right. I don't think either of them are right, really. But yeah, if people are taking a payoff, I have never taken a payoff in my life. I've walked out on jobs. I've done everything. I was what? This is a very brief story, but absolutely true and almost inconsequential, but it certainly caused a lot of trouble. I had a Parker pen, which had been given to me or left to me. This is how lucky my life is. It was left to me in a will. That's all I got, a Parker pen. Anyway, I used to walk around with it in my pocket, and I went to a meeting, a police committee meeting in Cheshire. When I came out, I noticed my pen had gone. In my police committee, somebody nicked me Parker pen. So I wrote a funny story about it. Now, I was told by the police that I either retracted that story, made an apology, or I would never be allowed into a police committee meeting again. That was blackmail. That was disgusting. What they should have done, said, oh, sorry about that, mate, must be an accident. Here, have this Parker pen instead. But they didn't. They threatened me. And so I never went to a meeting again. But I found stories out on the police which revealed more and more corruption. Now, that kind of pressure to be brought on any kind of organisation, if you're against Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola say, here's £10,000 to shut up about this for a month. First of all, you should tell the story that Coca-Cola's offered you that amount of money. Then you shouldn't take it. And B, if you do take it, you shouldn't spend it. You should use it for whatever else. Coca-Cola, to do that as a commercial decision, companies have not, businesses, but it's just business, isn't it? It's nothing personal, it's just business. And so businesses are basically corrupt organizations because they do things that they shouldn't do. So who's really to blame in that case? I reckon it's the people who took the money.
Yep, I agree. Going back to our Mardi Exceptional and tying it up with Coke, what many people don't realise is if you analyse the cost of the liquid inside the bottle, it's tuppence, and they're selling it for a fortune, and it's not all going to government taxation wise. Certainly in Coca-Cola's realm. But look, billions, and I mean billions, are spent on advertising and pushing a brand. Mardi, for instance, it's a fortune they're spending. They have grown more than any other lager, faster in the last 15 years than even the top dogs. And because of the power of advertising, especially television advertising. And Coca-Cola, as you know, spend a fortune on advertising. And you think, oh, is it worth? Well, it's obviously worthwhile. These companies are worth billions and billions. That's a lot of money going. Something going back to Coca-Cola, a lot of people are really mad about in Spain is when you go to a restaurant and you ask for a bottle of Coca-Cola. Oh, no, you just ask for a Coca-Cola. And it comes in one of these 25 mini litre bottles. And I mean, it comes that way so they can charge you twice, of course. So nobody can survive. It's 3 drops of Coca-Cola in one of those small bottles. It might look good and ancient, but I'm sorry. That's a bit naughty. And while we're on Spain, I know you want to talk about how our Brits are treated in Spain. Tell us your complaint, Lee.
It's not really a complaint. And I know that, I've already sullied my reputation as being a ranter and a moaner and a bad-tempered old 37-year-old. And also,
he's getting younger as time goes by. He's getting younger.
That's that. Time is moving backwards, and so is the bride. So said the great Bob Dylan. And when we left Europe.
Well, I don't get this. Other people quote Shakespeare. You keep going on about Bob Dylan. Have you got a thing about him?
I met him. I met him. I can tell you the story of me meeting him if you want, but you'll be taken off the air. But if you want me to, well, it's really funny. Anyway, no, well, Bob Dylan is the new poet. Bob Dylan isn't a poet. Everybody says Bob Dylan's a poet. He isn't. If you read his lyrics, they're not poetry. What he does is create poetry within lyrics. But he is probably one of the most profound writers of the last 2 centuries. And he's now on this massive, gigantic world tour where he's just setting the world on the fire again at 83. He's having difficulty with his legs. He's showing signs of age. But the man is just one of our very few geniuses, and in all forms, you know. But anyway, yeah. When we left Europe,
we've not left Europe.
I have. I'm coming back, but yeah, it's we had to, you know, we came back for various reasons, and we saw incipient racism beginning to rear its head against English people. For instance, when we were stopped by the police in Germany. I can't remember what it was stopped for now, but it was nothing to do. It wasn't any big crime. I hadn't robbed a bank or got £1 million of drugs. They just stopped because they didn't because my car was English. That was it, because they got English plates on it. And he asked me all sorts of stupid questions like, where are you going? Where are you coming from? What? I don't think what's it got to do with you, mate. You know, I've come from Slovakia. I'm now in Germany. I'm passing through. I'm going to go to France or Austria, wherever you go after Germany. And it's got nothing to do with you, really. Well, if you believe I've committed a crime, then check me out for a crime, not just where I've been. And he said, finally, where are you going? I said, I'm going home to Britain. And he just looked at me and he said, good. And that was it. And it struck me, what have I done wrong here to make a European policeman insult me for driving through his country? That's all I was doing. And then a couple of other small incidents like that happened. And recently we witnessed this incredible situation. I've not been out there, so I can't report on it directly, but where it would appear many tourist centres within Spain, Mallorca, etc., Ibiza, are turning against British tourists. And the question is why? I can only come down to one opinion, that if you want to go out wearing a vest with your fag stuck under the collar there, your baseball cap on backwards, coming from head to foot in tattoos, and you sit there and you drink 12 pints of lager and start going, who are you? Who are you? Yay! Like that, because you think it's really funny. And all you're doing is sitting there waiting for your husband to turn up. Then really there has to be something wrong with you. And we had an experience where we went to stay in the outskirts of Manchester last weekend. And it was an area, I was talking about, where Joseph Holtz's beer was available. And I really wanted a pint of Joseph Holtz, because I had one for a year. So we went to a bar. No, we didn't. I say that wrong. We went to a hotel. Amazingly, that's a totally different story. The hotel had a bar, but would only serve non-alcoholic beverages, which is fine if that's what they want to do. But I think they should tell you before you turn up. And then, so we went on a little sojourn through, and I'll tell you where it is, Edgeley in Stockport. Edgeley near Cheadle Hulme. Yeah, Edgeley, big posh place. Went in the bars, looking for Joseph Holtz. Couldn't find Joseph Holtz, but you know, the beers that are worth having. As soon as I walked in, doesn't happen in Spain, didn't happen in Slovakia, it happens nowhere in Europe. As soon as I walk in, all the people turn like that and they look at my hair, because they've not seen hair like that. before because they're all bald, got tattoos on their heads and everything. And they're all going like that, looking at me like I'm a weirdo. Well, I might be a weirdo, but at least I've got hair. And then I look up and they're all, forget about me within seconds, they're all looking up watching television on masses of screens. And all you can do is, yeah! Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And I think, well, why are you doing that? I'm coming through. I want a pint of Joseph Holtz. So you glared at me, now you're shouting at the television, and now you wonder why Spain doesn't want you in their bars and everything else. But is it fair to charge us £100 or make sure we've got at least £100 a day to spend because we're a bunch of idiots?
He's been practicing that shouting, by the way, for the
British
last
can do it. I just
12
do it
months.
naturally.
Yes. Now, well, let me put the other side to it. Although I agree, you've been talking about the Balearic Islands, and they're one of the many places throughout the Spain that has said, we don't want the Brits because it's increasing the prices of our houses.
That's
Well,
right.
poor old Brits. Try going to Wales, you get the same reaction. Try going to Cornwall, you get the same reaction.
Yeah.
Now, strangely, not out of choice. Well, no, it was out of choice, but not seriously. We have lived most of our lives in holiday resorts. We're in one now.
Yeah.
And we used to say at the end of the season, thank goodness they've all gone back. But we didn't really mean it. We meant it from the point of view of, yes, it's peace and quiet.
Yeah.
We ran businesses in those places and we needed your money, Mr. Foreign Tourist.
Yeah.
And if we did what the Mallorcans want and the Ibizans want and the Cornish want and the Welsh want, you'd have no work. You would be poor then. And that doesn't seem to get anywhere. But you look at the people that hold these views, they're usually the Greens who pretend to be Greens, but they have a different agenda. That is coming out now in this pre-election period. There's agendas here. And I'm sorry, they're the ones, dare I say, with the biggest mouths, the most erudite people. You get on if you're erudite, because somebody presses the button in your back and you just spout. And it's usually from the extreme left because they've not got any real cogent arguments. But boy, do they think they have, and it just pours out from them. Beware of that. We've no objection to people on the left or the right or whatever, as long as they can sit back and listen to other people. That's a good start to a conversation. Listen.
Absolutely.
And don't come out with the, yes, both sides of the coin there, really right, really left. Of course, they got a point of view, but if they won't listen to anybody else's, you think, right. But back to Spain, you're treated cruelly in airports in Spain. Absolutely. When you land, you're in a different queue.
Yeah.
Come on, get a grip. But there's a lot of anti-British feeling about Brexit.
You're there. You report. Why?
Well, Spain is very left. Portugal is very left.
Yeah.
Don't forget, Spain are one of these idiot countries that have come out and said we'll recognise the wicked people in Gaza as controlling, in other words, the Palestinian leaders. They've already recognised it together with Finland and Ireland. That tells you a lot about those countries. And now, this very day, Lee, 2 hours ago, dear old Steer Karma is going to announce next week to get the Muslim vote, of course, that he will recognise even before any two-state agreement, if it ever gets anywhere, they will follow the United Nations route. And don't forget, 153 countries out of the 193 countries in the United Nations have voted for a terrorist organization now in favor of them. That is wickedness. And all these people that are going on marches in London, the useful idiots, and I don't regret that, they've been hijacked. and it's very dangerous. That is truly awful. And I know Rishi's made a mess of the D-Day celebrations, but it doesn't compare with Mr. Steer Karma or even the Sir Steer Karma in what he's about to do just to get the Muslim vote. That's how dirty politics is.
Absolutely, it is. It's he's absolutely disgusting, and that I banged on about this for decades through newspapers, broadcasts, everything, and we really need to start to look very closely at our politics. We need a new world politics. We need it not to be focused on people who lie, who work for themselves, who deny basic truths to perpetuate their own views. We need politics to be cleared of corruption. We can't exist in this way for much longer. This is why we have so much unrest in the world. You know, the man whose name should never be mentioned is now being mentioned again. That's Tommy Robinson. He's back. How, and people are respecting him. How can you respect a man like Tommy Robinson? And it's just unbelievable. And yet he has a powerful political voice. Now you've got to put that together with the fact of the voice of the man on the street. And sadly, the man on the streets in so many places, like particularly Luton and Bedfordshire and places like that, do tend to have that same attitude to life. Now, I would say that's a massive failing on the side of not only politicians, not only educationalists, but also on the part of the church. The church has failed this country so badly by allowing this kind of corruption go unexposed. And yet, also, really, what about the corruption inside the churches? Everywhere we go within this world, with anything that's called an institution, and most of our politicians should be in one, is based on corruption. And that corruption is basically the need, the desire for money. And power, money and power. We live on that, yeah.
Listen, time has gone. We've got to fit in one item. And that is space. We're going to Lee's kingdom now, outer space.
Space cowboy, yeah. Always have been.
Another world. Well, for years, we've been very careful with our spacemen because we send them up there with rockets and they've got, if they come back, when they come back, they've got to, well, quarantine for 3 weeks at least. That's that, frankly, is not long enough. There are many pathogens out there that, start rearing their ugly head after about 6 months, about 3 weeks. But pathogens in space are probably, not possibly, but probably a reality. And as we get out there into our own little solar system compared with the universe, who knows what we're bringing back? Now, we've just gone through a pandemic. That's frightening enough. Who knows what's out there? Now, 50% of scientists saying, well, probably it won't match with the human beings that we are. Another 50% say, we don't know that. We've got to be very careful on what we're bringing back. So when we're digging stuff out of the moon, as the Japanese, they've come on, they've gone to the backside of the moon, very difficult to land. They've landed the spaceship. They're going to bring back 3 kilos of rock. And who knows what's in those 3 kilos of rock? It's dark. It's not had the sun on it for ages, apparently. Who knows? So be very careful what you do, people.
Space travel is a bizarre thing. I was watching a program last night about the plastic islands in the sea. Where whole islands, all big as nations, have grown within the sea. And we were talking about it. So what do you do? How do you get rid of it? You drag it out of the sea, put it on the land. It's still there. So what do you do? Chuck it back in the sea. There's not a lot you can do with it. And somebody was here, came up with a brilliant idea. Well, a brilliant idea, but it was an idea of, well, let's take it to the moon, stick it on the moon. That is the attitude we have to everything. We will overpower, we destroy things, we make things very bad, very, very difficult for ourselves. And then we just chuck it up in space. But if you think about the amount of debris that is in space already, you probably wouldn't notice a couple of plastic islands floating about. We have made space a dangerous place. To overtake somewhere like the moon, we've not really managed to do it. We're trying to get up there since I was born, which is, like we say, 20 years ago. And but since the 60s, we have been trying to populate the moon. And what we're doing on those planets, we're leaving loads of rubbish. You know, we just leave rubbish there. And it's just amazing to me that we can think that we can do anything better than other people, other planets, other aliens, other beings, that we are better than. We're not. We just dump rubbish everywhere we go, and space is not going to survive our onslaughts.
Well, I mean, it's fascinating, finally, to think that if there's people out there, and mathematically, they say there's got to be people out there. There's not many stars about, galaxies around. It's unthinkable. There's nobody there. But why haven't they contacted us? And don't go down the UFO route, because every one of those so far has been shot down, literally or unliterally. We don't know about that, but we're trying to get into reality here. But it is fascinating that we've not got any real contact with anybody. And surely they must be more advanced than us. Or are we the most advanced things in the universe? It's frightening to say that.
If we are the most advanced thing in the universe, that is very frightening. Yeah. I don't see why aliens have to be more advanced than us. That's a sort of Jules Verne view, isn't it? And, you know, and why they've got to have anything that's like us. Why have they got to have brain patterns, thoughts, empathy? Why have they got to have these things? Maybe they haven't. We're different, you know, we're different species. Look at the species on the earth. You know, it's, you know, you go down to fish, and then mammals, and then humans, and then hippopotamuses, and things like that. We're all different. And we don't have the same mental view of things. You know, a hippopotamus will eat you and then turn you into a bed. You know, we don't do that with hippopotamuses. Have you ever ate a hippopotamus? I bet you haven't. And
listen, we've completely run out of time, but I must mention to the people out there that confidentially, off camera, of course, he's looking forward to the day when we do meet extraterrestrials. And he's got this vision in his mind. They'll all look like Dolly Parton. Is that true? Come on.
Dolly Parton. Well, I tell you what, yeah, a global figure to be looked at, isn't she? Yeah. No double standards there as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I love Dolly Parton. Like, I agree with her totally. It takes a lot of money to look this cheap, dear.
Well, yes, and she's got a brain as well.
She has, and a big house.
Yes, we'll not go any farther. We'll see you next week.
All right, no problem. Cheers.